I'm trying to get in touch with Congress and just so difficult. So I just figured I'd use the technology that kind of fits fits with their foot dragging. 1950 phone here. Hang on a second. Hang on, let me take this call. Guys, watch the intro real quick. Ah, you know what? Not even worth it. I'll tell you what. There's so much foot dragging going on right now over in Congress, and the Bank of England is making some waves out there. Now, we talk about Main Street adoption. We've talked about all that stuff. We talked about what was going on over in Bermuda. We've talked about the shipping in Singapore, the banks in Italy, what's going on over in Switzerland, all over the world. Then you've got Ripple with their RippleNet solution taking on Swift, another dinosaur. But here, check this out. You've got the Bank of England making some big movements, and it's been reported by Bloomberg. There are actually two key articles that came out on Bloomberg just the past couple days. And this one, there were some amazing quotes and statements from the article. I said, you know what? I got to talk about this. I got to highlight it. And it's it's unreal. So check this out. All right, so we've got quote number one. This is from the Deputy Governor of Dave Ramsden. He said the UK Central Bank is focused on what should be done to provide public infrastructure to encourage private innovation. Right, that's their primary focus, and this is coming on the heels of a statement where he said there's a big issue with the cost and efficiency of payments across borders. So, so this is interesting. So one is that the central bank is focused on things that will help build out more private innovation. He's also acknowledging the fact that there's a cost, that there's a big issue right now with their cross-border payments. This article then goes on and states that the governor of the bank, Mark Carney, the governor of the Bank of England, had talked about the concept of replacing the dollar's role as the international reserve currency with a stable coin like Facebook's Libre. Interesting. So this whole article, I'm just looking at some of these quotes here and how keyed in this is, because then you have the deputy governor again, Dave Ramsden, says that the current offering to their consumers and business is not good enough in this day and age. The whole concept of this article is all about the idea behind digital asset, that right from the beginning, that the central bank, that it's worth looking at, that the central bank getting into digital currency is something that's not just worth looking at, but you can see that they're already beyond that because of what Facebook brought a lot to light. Regardless of what you believe in Facebook, Facebook has really highlighted, some key concerns within, from a global perspective. You're starting to see the central banks kind of getting together and say, you know what? Facebook has 2 billion users. Forget about even touching, the activity on WhatsApp and exactly how Libre is really going to be transacted. But 2 billion customers is monumental. And so these central banks are looking and saying, you know what? We're going to be pushed into irrelevancy if we allow this to happen. So now you're getting a lot of this activity. You're getting a lot of these notions that, you know what, maybe digital currency is actually something that's important. And then when Dave Ramsden comes out and he's saying that their way of doing things just isn't good enough, that what they're offering their customers just isn't good enough, because digital currency and what Facebook is proposing is so far beyond that it's going to cause, some major issue in the very near future. And so there, right in the same article, then you have the European Central Bank board member Benoît Courier, I'm not sure if I pronounced it right, was stating that that this week that regulators actually need to be prepared for a revolution in digital currencies, and that central banks must adapt. So you have the European Central Bank board member talking about it. You have the Bank of England deputy governor. You have the Bank of England governor, all focused in on the fact that digital assets are not just here to stay, but in order for them to stay relevant, they need to do something. So there's just, to me, I'm excited about this because because this is so meaningful. Not only are the big banks talking about it, but Bloomberg is continuously reporting on this every single day. You see articles on digital asset, digital currency. And then you're starting to see activity on Forbes. Once the mainstream media is picking things like this up, it's monumental. Then there was another article here in on Bloomberg, and this one was why central bankers got serious about digital cash. And this person that wrote this article, hang on, I'm just scrolling to the bottom of the article. Sorry I didn't pull it up. This thing kind of loaded up with ads and just didn't really work to pull up properly to share the screen. But anyhow, so they had some really key questions. I really like this article. Again, back to back. And here it's why central bankers are getting serious about it. So Facebook's Libre was probably one of the primary causes. Obviously, we know what Ripple is doing. We know RippleNet has definitely been making some storm around the world. Switzerland, and we see what they're doing with SIX, trying to tokenize stock. We see, obviously, on the exchange side, we know what's going on. But when you start seeing Main Street financial institution, you see what Fidelity is doing with their launch. So one of the key questions they asked is, what changed? Why are central bankers now focused in on it? Again, Libre was one of the primary points. They bring up the stablecoin with Tether. They bring up, the fact that the U.S. Federal Reserve has been looking at sitting on the sidelines like the rest of the U.S. government. But, we know China's actively working on a coin. We know what's happening over in Bermuda. We know Sweden and Switzerland and, so many countries. Obviously, the Bank of England, because we just talked about that one. Another question here is, what would a central bank coin be like? Now, this is where I think the author kind of goes a little bit astray in this article, because they're talking a little bit about the Bank of China. They start talking about China's annual shopping day and how many transactions per second are needed. They talk about, Ethereum can only handle 15 transactions a second, whereas Visa is doing 24,000. But they didn't really expand their search and go into whether or not it's Ripple, what could be done on the XRP ledger. They're not addressing the fact that maybe it's a basket of digital assets. Maybe it's not just one digital asset specifically. They're missing the point a little bit, with this, and didn't do enough research into how many transactions can really be managed and handled, on a more massive scale. Then they get into another important question. What do the central bankers have in mind as they're developing this? The other day we were talking about AML and counterterrorism with CipherTrace. And, what can CipherTrace actually do to combat terrorist financing? But the thing is, we also looked at what Canada is looking at, some mechanism of utilizing digital asset to track purposes for a taxation purpose. And so obviously central banks are thinking about that. Governments are thinking about this. But at the same point, there's so much to lose by not getting involved. And there's so much to gain from a financial perspective, being more inclusive instead of exclusive. And these are all really key points. And in this article on Bloomberg, who's trying this? And they pinpoint some of these key countries that we've discussed in the past, but they also included Grenada, St. Kitts and Nevis. They get into, let me see, Norway, or Sweden, sorry. Sweden's Riksbank is exploring an e-krona. Uruguay, South Africa. We know Venezuela tried something, but that was fake. In Switzerland, what we just mentioned, they didn't bring up Bermuda. They didn't bring up, a lot of the other activities that are going around the world. But it's exciting to see this change and this movement in this space. And forget about trying to, get in touch with Congress right now. Although, they're dragging their feet. Things obviously need to change. Obviously, they need to get it done. Obviously we need to see some positive momentum when it comes to regulatory clarity in this space. We need to see some action and some activity to keep up with the momentum that's happening everywhere else in the world. And if the Bank of England right now is getting on board and understanding, if central banks globally are beginning to see it, to see the light, obviously the Federal Reserve sitting on the sidelines. Obviously, we know within Congress, with the Token Taxonomy Act, they understand. At least there's a light of understanding someplace. But because of other political things that are going on at the same time, they're kind of not getting actively involved. So now's the time to see some change and some momentum and some movement. But again, it's exciting when we're starting to see Main Street starting to talk about it. So again, hey, you know what? This is Jeff with the HODL Review. Glad you watched today's video. Looking forward to putting out some other great content. There's always great news articles coming up. If you see anything, go ahead and tweet it over. You can also check out our website. Go to onthechain.io, onthechain.io. You can fill out and subscribe to our newsletter. Soon we're going to be rolling out podcasts. We have 2 YouTube channels. We have On the Chain and On the Chain Live. I know they're hard to find, mainly because we rebranded. If you can't find them by typing in On the Chain, go ahead and type in the HODL Review, and you'll find the live one. Type in XRP Minute, and you'll find this one, the one that you're watching right now. So hopefully you found this one. But onthechain.io will bring you everywhere you need to go. Look forward to seeing you on the next video, and until then, I'll see you.